Hello and welcome to Code Sadhana. In this episode, we'll be talking about Unnest in BigQuery. The Unnest operator takes an array and returns a table with one row for each element in the array. For example, if you have an array with 5 elements, when you do an Unnest, it converts the array into a table with 5 rows. This operation is also called flattening of the array. When you do an Unnest on an array of struct, each field in the struct is converted as a column in the table. As shown in the example here, when we do the Unnest on the struct array, you get a table with 2 columns, name and language. Now let us look at the syntax for the Unnest operator. The Unnest operator takes an array expression or array path as input. Additionally, you can give an alias for the Unnest output, and you can also specify an offset. The Unnest can be used in two places in the query, along with the from or along with the in operator. There are two types of Unnest, explicit or implicit Unnest. And Unnest is used in construction, flattening, and filtering of arrays. Now we will look into some code examples of how to use the Unnest. Now let us look at an example of using an Unnest with the from. Select star from Unnest and you pass an array expression. So as expected, this would flatten the array and return 3 rows, 1, 2, 3. We can also use this format for unnesting an array of struct, which would return a table with 2 columns, with each column corresponding to the field of the struct. Now let us look at an example of how to use an Unnest with an in operator. Suppose you have a student's database which has a student's name and hobbies stored as an array. Now you want to print the names of the students who do kayaking. So in this case, here what we are doing is select name from students where kayaking in Unnest of students.hobbies. So when we run this, it will return 2 records, Arjun and Beam, because Arjun and Beam are into kayaking. So this is an example of how to use Unnest with in operator. Let us now look at the difference between an explicit and implicit Unnest. If you remember, the Unnest operator takes two formats. In one format, it takes an array expression as an input, and the other format is taking an array path as an input. When we give select star from Unnest 1, 2, 3, this is an example of an explicit Unnest operator. In an explicit Unnest operator, we have to explicitly specify the Unnest keyword, and it takes an array expression as input. The array expression, when used with explicit Unnest operator, should return an array value. So in this example, 1, 2, 3 is the array value, which is used with the Unnest operator, and it returns the output as a flattened array. Now let us take another example where we are using an array function to construct an array and passing it as an expression to the Unnest operator. Now when we run this, what happens is we are getting an error. The reason is because when we run this expression independently, it is not actually returning an array value, but it is actually returning a table with 1 row and 1 column, which is not exactly equal to an array value. So in order to make this expression work, we have to convert this into the following format, where we declare the new array first, and then we select from the new array cross joining with the Unnest operator. So when we do like this, this works. Now in this format, the Unnest operator, here we are not actually passing an expression, but we are actually passing an array path. New array.b is a path which is resolving to an array. So this is an example of an implicit uh, Unnest operator. So in the implicit Unnest operator, we use an array path as an input. And this Unnest keyword is also optional. So the same example, if you remove this Unnest keyword, this will also work. So as you can see that in this case, even without the Unnest, this is working. As we know, array is an ordered list of elements, but we do an Unnest of an array. BigQuery doesn't guarantee the order of the array elements. So in order to guarantee the order, we can use the with offset clause along with Unnest. So we have to add the with offset and order by the offset. This will guarantee that the order is preserved when we do an Unnest. So in this example, you can see that the output of the above query returns two columns. One is the athlete names and second is the offset, which starts from 0 and goes to the end. Now, in the earlier, I said that Unnest can be used for construction, filtering, and flattening. So we have already seen a lot of examples where we flatten the array. Now let us look into an example of filtering with Unnest. So here I have a table of athletes, and each athlete we are storing the name of the athlete, and we have a races, which is an array of struct. So in the struct we have two fields. One is the race field, and the second field is an array of time. So now we have, say, let us say we have a requirement to fetch all the races where the race distance was 200 meters and the time was less than 19.9 seconds. So in order to achieve this, we can write a query like as shown here. So here basically we are taking the athletes table, joining with a dot races. So this is an implicit Unnest and a cross joining happening here. And then we are also adding a join to the time. So races is an array, and inside that array we have a struct, and that struct has another array called time. So this is like two levels deeper. So we join athlete with races with time. Once you do that, we can simply add a condition t less than 19.9 and add a filter race equal to 200 meters. Now if you run this, it will, okay, there is, I just need to run it again. So as we ran this, we got an output, the name of the athlete, the race, and the time. So as you can see, all the timings here are less than 19.9 seconds. So this is an example of filtering. The next example we have to see is construction with Unnest. So we will take the same athletes table, but now we are having a requirement that we wanted to show this array of timing concatenated with the seconds. So for example, as shown here, Usain Bolt, 100 meters, and each of the timing we are concatenating with a second suffix and showing them. So in order to achieve this, we are writing a query as shown here, select name comma race, and we are calling the array function. In the array function, we are saying concatenate t comma seconds, where t is the time. So here we are first joining between the athletes and an Unnest of races. So that will expose the time column in the races. So we are accessing that time column with as r dot time here. So this is actually an Unnest of r dot time, and we are concatenating each element of the array with the seconds. So when we run this query, You can see that it returned the name of the athlete, and also each of the times appended with the seconds. So that is all about Unnest. So today we saw about Unnest, where it can be used, like it can be used in the from or in operator. We also saw about explicit and implicit Unnest operations. We also saw about flattening, filtering, and constructions. So this is all about Unnest. If you have any questions, please leave it on the comments. Please do like and share the video. Thanks for watching. Happy coding.